Welcome to Sliver and Bite TV. Let's make almost everybody's favourite, homemade pizzas. Not only will you be able to make it all from scratch, but also a secret technique to have it nice and crispy on the bottom and beautifully done on the top. For a more condensed version of this video, click the banner above. Let's get started with the dough. You can click the banner above now for my 3-day pizza dough. And you can click the banner above now for my Turkish bread, which is what I've used in this video because I wasn't patient enough to wait the 3 days for the dough. You can see that I have kneaded it for about 1 minute and then rolled it into a log. Now I will cut it into enough portions to make 4 pizza bases. The 2 end pieces I will end up forming to make 1 dough ball because it tapers off. You do need to be mindful when you are slicing into the dough to make your final dough balls. The least amount of seams you have, the better. Because with this final rise, it won't become sticky enough to join the seams. And when you go to flatten it out to make your pizza base, it will fall apart. So as you can see, I pull it in from the outsides, pushing quite firmly, and then turning it over and twisting it with the palms of my hand. This creates a nice tight seam, so the final proofing, 15 to 20 minutes, it all is contained and it doesn't flare out at the bottom. There will be a slight rise, but nothing too drastic. I have sprinkled on some semolina to a baking tray. I'm covering with a clean, damp Chuck's cloth and setting that to the side while I get started on my pizza sauce. For my pizza sauce, I use my tomat. You can make tomat by clicking the banner above now. I had put 200-gram bags into the freezer, ready to defrost, and you can see I'm pouring that into a small saucepan. Essentially, we are going to put this on the heat and reduce it down so it forms more of a thicker consistency, almost like a paste. To enhance the taste and add a little more colour, I am putting in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And peppering on roughly a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of dried oregano. Because of the thickness of the sauce, you can see it is splashing everywhere. It's best not to use a lid because that contains the moisture. You want to have the steam evaporate off. That is what's going to make this sauce thicker. So for the best result, you do need to stand there and whisk it consistently so it doesn't make so much of a mess. But you also can't leave it alone because you don't want it to burn or have any lumps. Depending on the consistency of the original tomat, you will whisk this for up to 15 minutes. Just checking the consistency. Looks good to me. And then just putting that into a bowl. Be careful what bowl you put it in. I had a little spill because, of course, stainless steel is a great conductor of heat. So I would usually use glass, but I figured I would have everything matching today, and I went the stainless steel look. Now to get all of the toppings ready. I'm thinly slicing my prosciutto because there's nothing worse than not being able to use your teeth to cut through the prosciutto, and then you've got this long string come off. So at least now they're a little bit thinner, so you're not pulling a whole slice of prosciutto off. Then thinly cutting some pepperoni, which I will cut up into fourths and fry off because you don't really keep it under the grill for too long and it may not cook the pepperoni all the way through. So I like to fry that off before putting it onto the pizza. In a bowl, putting some shredded mozzarella, a small bowl of rocket or arugula ready to garnish. It's always nice to have something a little fresh on top. And also a little bit of colour, otherwise it's all yellow and reds. Now dicing up some blue cheese. There is nothing better than roast pumpkin, blue cheese, and some roasted pine nuts. Oh my gosh, what a lethal combination. Now getting together my butter and garlic mixture. This is what I use to base the bottom of the pizza base and the edges. Honestly, it makes the bottom nice and crispy, and that's my little secret weapon, and you'll see that a little later on. So just putting in as much butter as you need to baste each of your pizza bases, and a good 4 cloves of garlic. And you're going to finely mince the garlic. You know, I like doing my little magic tricks, so just peeling the garlic and now just cutting down the center to make sure it can grip onto the chopping board, and then slicing before I will go over it a good 30 to 40 times to really get a good mince. Now the magic trick to melt the butter, and as you can see, that garlic is looking pretty good. Of course, you can buy a lot of these ingredients already chopped. However, there really is something about fresh ingredients that you feel and chop yourself. So just giving that a mix now and then putting that off to the side, ready to baste the bottom of our pizza bases. It may firm up, but you just put that on a reheat for 10 to 15 seconds in the microwave when you go to start cooking. All the prep is nearly done. One of the last things is just to roast off the pine nuts. I'm just using a little splash of olive oil, getting that nice and warm, and then throwing on the pine nuts. It'll take roughly 5 minutes. It does go from 0 to 100 quite quickly, so make sure you don't burn them, otherwise you'll have to start again. You only need a light browning of the pine nuts. and I had let the roast pumpkin cool down a little bit. Otherwise, if I put it directly into a bowl, it would have sweat and gone all mushy. So it took a little while to get all of the prep done. However, now that it's ready to go, all you need to do is work on your pizza bases and then top with your heart. So removing one of the dough balls, as you can see, it sort of deflates a little bit when I'm taking it off. It's okay, we're about to flatten it out anyway. So I've got a little bit of semolina on the bench and then putting the dough down and working it out with my fingers ever so slightly. Once it is flat enough, you'll be able to pick it up and use its weight to stretch it out a little bit. Then you'll be able to put your fists underneath it and then further work it out so it's nice and thin. If you find the center is becoming too thin, you can then hold it by the edge and use its weight to thin out the crust, as it were. It's important to be delicate at this stage because you don't want a tear in the center of your pizza base. So it does take a little finesse to get it to the right shape and thickness. It's okay to go quite thin. The yeast within the bread will activate a little bit and it will puff up in the pan and underneath the grill. It's interesting. Before you know it, you will be confident enough to throw the base back and forth, just like they do in the pizza shops. Okay, we've gotten it to a nice thickness and we can now turn on the heat. We only want a medium heat at this stage. We don't want to burn the base. Before we put it on the pan, we're just going to give it a garlic and butter wash, and that will be the part that is down in the pan. Just checking the heat is right. I needed to turn it up a little bit. And then that goes down onto the fry pan. And then using that butter garlic wash to do the crust, because the tomato sauce won't go to the edges. So we'll keep this on the medium heat for a good 3 to 4 minutes, just to really get a crust on the base. You don't want to put your toppings on too soon because you want to double check, like I am now, to see the status of the base. You want to see whether it's burning yet, whether to reduce the heat, whether to up the heat a little bit. Once you're satisfied with the status of the base, you can put on a healthy dollop of the tomato sauce. Because it's quite loose, you don't want too much, otherwise you'll find that the pizza won't crisp up. But of course, this is all personal preference. At this stage, you can have a little cheeky look underneath, but once you start putting cheese and the meats on, once you check underneath it, it's all just going to fall to one side. Just peppering on a little bit of the dried oregano. And now I am designing my pizza. First on with some sliced prosciutto. Some of the roasted pumpkin, and then just lowering the heat a little bit because I don't want the base to burn. Some diced shallots. I've gone with the shallots because it doesn't really need too much onion as a taste, and the shallots are a little bit sweeter. On with some mozzarella, and then on with some discs of mozzarella as well. I've had the grill warming up and I've got the rack on the highest rung ready to place this underneath and now cook the top. And because the bottom of the pizza base is sealed, there's no need for baking paper or semolina. And that'll be under the grill until, obviously, personal preference, but approximately 5 to 10 minutes. It just depends on how hot you've got the temperature. I've got my temperature on 200 degrees on the grill setting. And then once you're happy with it, it's off onto a chopping board to finish off. And I'm putting on some of the rocket / arugula and the pine nuts. I mean, how appetizing is that? And it tastes unreal because it's all fresh made products. That's what I really appreciate making food from scratch, because you know exactly what has gone into it. And look at that stringy cheese. Oh, mozzarella. And look at the bottom of that pizza base. So crispy and tasty with the butter and garlic. Absolutely phenomenal. Getting ready for a second pizza now. And this one, I'm actually going to do a cheese stuffed crust. One thing that I've noticed when flattening out the pizza dough is that the middle becomes very thin very quickly. So you will see me picking it up from the edge, which will become the crust of the pizza, to make sure that that is contributing towards the center of the pizza. Now on with some of the garlic butter, and you can be as light or as heavy as you want. It's all personal preference. And then that's an alley-oop onto the fry pan. And then just basting the edges again. But this will assist in sticking it down after I put a ring of cheese around. And then you will see me folding it over. It will be hot because it's in a hot pan, obviously, but it'll get easier to push that down once you've turned the edges up. See, now you're able to firmly push those edges down to make sure it keeps the cheese inside the crust. And now we can start building the pizza, starting with the pizza sauce. Going in with the prosciutto again. And this time some blue cheese. Shallots. Pine nuts, and now the mozzarella. Then a little base check. Oh yeah, looking good. Just doing another quick baste of the crust with the garlic butter mixture. And then repeat that process in the oven. And here it is in all its glory. Along with a pepperoni pizza I made off screen. Just to add a little more authenticity, cutting with a pizza wheel is so good. It's so much easier than using a knife, and it sort of keeps within the theme. It's fun. With the cheese-filled crust, I'm actually going to squirt on some marinara sauce just to give it that little bit of extra moisture. And what I've found is that with the pizza sauce, it kind of dulls because it's overshadowed by the cheese and the rest of the toppings. So having in its raw form over the top, amazing. And now cutting, ready to taste this creation. There it is, cheese-filled crust. So good. And just look at the base of that. It is just glorious, honestly. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Pizzas is one of my favorites. Look forward to teaching you more on other YouTube videos. See you soon.